بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله على ما أنعم وله الشكر على ما ألهم والثناء بما قدم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما سيدي ومولاي صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm really excited for tonight's program on Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya's Instagram page. We are delighted, honored to have Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani. I'll just wait a few seconds for everyone, inshallah, to join. And inshallah, I'll invite His Eminence, the Sayyid, inshallah, so we can benefit from him. We're delighted, of course, that he's accepted our invitation to join us. And I really look forward to it. We have the Sayyid, inshallah, from now. Dua Ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Salam Habibi.
How are you, Sayyid?
How are you, buddy?
تقبل الله أعمالك. May Allah accept your fasting,
Allah
your deeds.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Forgive me, I've just literally finished a Zoom majlis for, Abu Shahbaz, Mahmoud Khan, whose father just died yesterday. So I'm a bit grief-stricken. I don't know if you could tell that, I've just got a bit emotional in the musibah. So I'm just slowly recovering.
May Allah bless you. So thank you, Sayyid, for making time out. Especially, I know that you had a lecture before Iftar, and now you had the lecture now. So you've got a busy schedule. So we thank you for making time for us, inshallah.
No, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I'm very proud of you guys. I can see lots of different colored hearts popping up. And as you know, I'm new to social media. And the last week, all of a sudden, there's been a revolution in my life, social media-wise, which I think is 20 years too late. But still, it's a good start.
It's just good that you've joined social media. A lot of people are excited to have you on. The hearts, just to explain the hearts, how it works. Usually, we don't have this much. We do actually. We have it in the Iraqi community as well. When the speaker drops a bar or drops a line, you get someone doing either a salawat or a nara haydari. That's
Correct.
how the hearts I think work here, especially that you're on today. Whenever there's a nice line dropped, I'm going to see the hearts. So inshallah we'll get a lot of hearts throughout the talk, inshallah. Sayyidina.
Why not? Hearts are always cool. We're cool with hearts.
Habibi Sayyidina. Let's start off because I know we don't have much time. The idea behind the Saturday night show on Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya's page, for those people that haven't tuned in before, is we've invited different speakers, scholars, and we've asked them about their life, not obviously for the obvious reasons for the youth, especially for those that have been attending our majalis, to learn from. So inshallah, the idea is for them to if there's people out there that have interest in Islamic history, that have interest maybe in speaking, going to the houses, studying, inshallah they'll know the steps, what are the right steps, inshallah, to follow through this talk today. And I want to start off by spending a few minutes first getting to know Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani. Let's start on your youth, university, and if you can share any experiences that the youth can benefit from today.
Well, I don't know how much I have to introduce myself. I think, most of the people probably have got sick and tired of seeing my bios everywhere.
But now they're hearing it from you.
Now they're hearing it from me, yeah. Well, I think if we begin looking back in my youth, I was blessed to have grown up in a wonderful Iraqi community, which, of course, having been here since the 80s, I would say that, we were amongst the families who were here earlier than most. My father had come here in the 70s, but, we were here from the 80s, and we had a wonderful upbringing in the Iraqi community. Certain people who are still with us, certain people who have left this world, who were instrumental in our youth. I'm sure you remember as well. I never forget, I gave you a nickname when you were younger. I used to call you Aftershave, if you remember, because I used to remember you used to splash your aftershave. If it was a night like this, and it was the Wilad of Imam al-Hassan, it's a big occasion in the community, there's one guy who's going to be smelling good, It's this guy over here. Not sure about the choice of the colors of the dishadish, mind you, but to your credit, you know, the smell always was amazing. And yeah, we were lucky. Said Majid Al-Khou'i, may Allah bless his soul, was a wonderful figure in our community. I think so underestimated, just what a good guy he was, what a good man he was, what a good leader he was. And we forget that he was a leader in our communities when he was in his mid to late 30s. You know, if you think back in the early 90s, I have to give a shout out to people like Al-Hajj Abu Zainab Al-Kadhimi, was a wonderful servant of the community and continues to be. He gave so much back to us when we were younger. You know, Al-Hajj Abu Nabil Al-Ibadi, another wonderful servant of the community. People who, you know, I'm remembering, you know, Hajj Abu Ra'id, you know, he might have pulled my ear on a couple of occasions, but here was a guy, Saturday schools, you know, he was a great guy. And, you know, then you had other ulama in London, said Hussein Al-Shami, said Fadl Milani, you know, people who had served in the community. Haji Radi had served since I can remember. I remember going to Rasul Al-A'zam when it used to be in a flat in Edgware Road. I'm saying all of this because I never want to neglect those in our community who gave so much back. Your father being one of them, you know, who was always there, ready to serve in their different capacities. So, you know, we grew up in the Iraqi community, and there were some wonderful centers. You know, I remember Al-Khou'i well, I remember Darwell, the Balaghi family were brilliant servants of the community from back in the day. They had done amazing work with Majalis Al-Hussein. And if you remember very well, we had Markaz Ahl al-Bayt in Clapham. Who would have thought Clapham would have got so expensive? And we had, you know, you had the likes of Sayyid Muhammad al-Musawi, who would always come and serve us. You had the Khou'i Center, you had Dar al-Islam, you had Rasul A'zam, you had Majma' al-Irani. So these places were very instrumental in my youth. I must admit, I don't know how much I learned Islamically in these places. That I put my hands up. A year before I gave my first majlis, I didn't know about Kufa and Sham. Allah. I knew Karbala, 10 nights, Muharram, Mosque, Latom, food, which I think are wonderful bases to have. But I never knew much because of the fact that a lot of the lectures were given in the traditional languages. I was lucky that I went on a Saturday school called the Saturday Workshop in Stanmore, which I'm sure you know of. And that gave me a bit more of an insight in terms of English. But I think you'll agree with me that up till the age of 16, you really didn't know too much. Barring what the Saturday school taught you, I don't think we knew too much. The lectures were all in Arabic or Urdu or Farsi. English hadn't really kicked off. So that would really be the first, the teenage years, I would say. Yeah.
It's nice that you mentioned Haji Abu Zainab Al-Kadhimi. Just to mention one thing about Haji Abu Zainab. Since we started Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya, Haji Abu Zainab has been coming to every event that we held at D1. He was there in every single event, subhanAllah. So
well, I mentioned him as well because I think I saw
that's why I said you mentioned him
on the screen.
Yeah, you mentioned
so him. I thought, you know what, I'll mention him as well. He deserves
you mentioned
it.
Him, of course. Did the next question that I want to ask, did the youth, did you ever think that there'd be a day, and of course I'm asking this now before you even thought about lecturing, did you or the youth around you ever think there'd be a day where they'd sit in a Hussainiya and they'd have an English majlis?
No, I didn't see it happening, and I must admit I don't know how much change there has been, considering a lot of those mosques I was raised in still have Arabic as the main lecture. Credit goes to Sheikh Bilal. Credit goes to Dr. Bashar and Dr. Zuhair al-Nahar for their wonderful service in the English language in those early years. They gave a lot back to our community. Dr. Wakil, of course. Abu Muhammad also tried to give back. You know, there was a lot. Mullah Asghar in the Khaja community was probably the first indication that there can be English. But the Khaja were always here before us. Their community was established a bit before us. So there was that movement between Gujarati, Swahili, and English. Whereas for the Iraqi community, still that push hadn't occurred. But Sheikh Bilal, to his credit, had slowly started. to emphasize that if the youth don't have these majalis available in English, then we may end up losing them. Yeah.
You said something which I want to pick up on, that you knew about Ashura, Karbala, Timanuqima, Natum, and then Arba'in, Sham, Kufa, they were taken. You didn't know. When did you start thinking, wait, I need to now learn more? And how did this interest lead you to learning about Islamic history, especially because now that's become sort of your field, the historical Islamic events?
Well, I would say that there was a couple of things that influenced this. Of course, not to, you mentioned about the basic things that we knew, such as Timma Nuqima on the 10th of Muharram or Latum. These are still very important.
Of course.
Me. And I don't like people, and I'm sure you agree with me, we don't like it when people mock these things, because at our level as 14, 16-year-olds, that brought a bit of the love, that we associated as a classical conditioning that works with all human beings. There are certain dishes in the Pakistani community and certain dishes in the other communities in the world which are associated with these things. But I would say definitely going to Umrah the first time, I'd gone to Umrah with my father. And I would say that when I was at Jannat al-Baqi' that year, and I was standing in front of the graves of Imam al-Hassan, may Allah bless his soul. Of course, we remember him on these nights, and Imam Zain al-Abidin, and Imam al-Baqir, and Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamu alayhima. I remember standing there, and you've always got the Iranians around you who are in tears, and you're like looking at yourself and thinking, I'm not even crying here. This hasn't affected me. And the reason it hasn't affected me is because while I respect these four, I haven't read their biographies. I don't know much about them. And if there was a munasabah about the mosque, and it was the Mawlud of Imam al-Hassan or the Mawlud of Imam Zain al-Abidin, me and you are not listening to a lecture. And yes, I've got to put my hands up. I know my parents are probably watching this, but I'm going to put you in this as well and get you in trouble. But we used to, no problem, bro. We used to actually skive off to Queen's Park and play football while the program was happening. Now, you remember.
Centre mid, Sayyid Ammar.
Centre mid, bro. Centre mid. I wish I can return to that. So, what happened was that Umrah trip, I came back and I felt a guilt.
It triggered something.
It triggered something. I remember one of the first people I saw was Hussein Raouf. Hussein and Muhammad. They're all good friends of ours. And Hussein saw me when I came back from Umrah, and he said, listen, something's changed in you. The way you're talking, you're talking in a way where you want to talk more about Ahlul Bayt. Remember, in that time, there's no English majalis. There's no hundreds of speakers online for you to listen to. And I said to him, Hussein, we've been making excuses that we don't know about Ahlul Bayt. But why don't we go and read? And I remember there was a bookshop in Watford to Al-Hajj Murtada Bandali, who has a wonderful voice. And it was called Alif International. And I went to that bookshop. They had small booklets on Imam al-Hassan, Imam Zain. I spent hours reading them. Whatever I would gain, slowly I want to give back. And at that time, and I want to mention them all, Mustafa Field, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give strength to his father in these difficult moments. Amir Taqi, Haydar Al-Hassani, Maytham Abdullah, Muhammad Al-Hussaini. Is an interesting combination.
Very.
But a combination of guys, when we sat together, we felt that we could do something. And it became called Al-Haraka Al-Haydariya. And now you guys are called Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya. Subhanallah. That was Al-Haraka Al-Haydariya in the year 2000. Every once in a while, you have a dream combination who come together, in my humble opinion, where in universities, APSOCs begun. I always say the generation X, the generation of 2000, the graduates of 2000 to 2005, 6, I admire that generation. I grew up with them and I admire them because they were the ones who really had to hold on. They couldn't be spoon-fed by, you know, the flourishing of English everywhere. They were the ones who were the first. And full credit goes to all of you who were at the APSOC scene in the early 2000s. You know, it wasn't the easiest scene at the time. You know, I don't think this, there were some other groups which were quite rough on the Shia. But alhamdulillah, you know, when all us guys came together, we began Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya. And slowly from there, a passion developed to start talking about the religion every Friday night. You know, you remember people would come from far and wide. You know, I don't know what your memories of Haraka Al-Hussainiya and, you know, what your best memories were. I'm sure you've got some great memories yourself.
Of course. I mean, I just want to, before going to the first lesson, I think for the youth today is something vital that you mentioned is you took that first step and you went and picked up the book and you started reading. I think for anyone now, and you're saying, you know, you have to go all the way to this library. Now it's even easier. You know, the Islam.org has all these books on PDF. I don't think they were available then.
No, they
now
weren't,
it's easy for anyone. So the lesson number one, I think, is really reading for us. And regarding Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya, I remember Hassan Bahsoon's Haraka Al-Hussainiya. We done it in
yes,
that.
yes,
do you remember that? That was before we moved to Abrar and then to Dar and Islamic Center. So I remember that quite well. I remember Hassan bringing SFCs, the Southern Fried Chicken.
Well, I remember Hassan Baraka having, on one occasion, maybe 46 people in his car.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, I remember that there was about 7 guys on the roof, all the way, honestly. And I do remember, I'm not going to mention his name, one of the guys who had a car with a hole.
I remember
it had a hole.
Yeah.
So I remember one of the guys who had a hole. So literally, wherever you're sitting, if you're sitting, it's like Flintstones. You remember the Flintstones used to move their car with their feet? There was one of the guys who had a hole. But I'm not going to mention his name because his hand is quite massive and he may end up knocking me out.
Subhanallah, see, Haraka Al-Hussainiya, you know, the Haidar Qazdaz, Sayyid Hassan Nawab, Mullah Ali, you know, they attended Haraka.
Yeah, graduates. Yeah.
So that inspired the fact that the naming, the fact that Imam Al-Hussein Salamullahi alayhi is the son of Amir al-Mu'minin. And I see, subhanallah, you're saying, you know, there was, you know, till today, there's centers that don't have English lectures as their main lecture. Till today, and I mean, the start of Haraka Al-Hussainiya was the fact that till today, we don't have a weekly English program in London for the Iraqi community. For the Iraqi community. Of course, I know the Khojas, the Pakistanis, they're way ahead of us. There are some centers that do Dua Kumail. I don't know the attendance. I don't know if they're getting the right crowd, if they're pulling the guys that are on the streets to come to the center. So I think sort of, even though Haraka Al-Hussainiya inspired so many youth to sort of say, wait, I shouldn't be really doing this. Friday night means Haraka, and the name was catchy. Friday night meant Haraka, you know, because I'm going to listen to a nice lecture, SFC, and I'm going to chill with the boys.
Yes.
And I feel the last, even though we have Muharram Majalis, alhamdulillah, we have Arba'in, but still there's nothing to keep the youth, the 16, 17, 18-year-olds off the streets for the Iraqi community. And even though we've come so far, like from 2000, now 20 years later, there's still a need for it.
Iraqi communities, the situation in the Iraqi community is always going to be different for one main reason,
which is
the community hasn't donated for that center. So they'll never feel responsible. It's always been funded by a marja'iyya, which is a great thing that the marja'iyya has given funds to buy a center for us, but you never felt that you put your own sweat into that place. Makes a difference. When Ammar bin Yasir lifted the bricks for the Prophet's mosque, peace be upon him and his family, the passion continued within him for years afterwards. When Hamza lifted those bricks, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself lifted the bricks for those mosques, while the Iraqi community is a community that may make money in their Monday to Friday 9-to-5 job, but has not got used to the idea of funding their own centers. So I'm not saying you scrap the ones that are built. Of course. There should be a membership scheme, £500 a year, £1,000 a year. which goes from every member of our community, which we grew up in and benefited from, £500 a year, £1,000 a year, you then feel that you have a say and a responsibility for the vision of that community. When I'm seeing communities where it's like, this has been given to you by Sayyid Al-Khoy, this has been given to you by Sayyid Fadlallah, this has been given to you by Sayyid Fulan, Sayyid Fulan. So people then feel, okay, spoon-fed. We haven't done anything to contribute. Then Monday to Friday money that I make 6 figures, I might give the odd 100 quid a year for food for Imam Hussein. 100 quid is nonsense. And if you then want to have the top Muharram programs, you cannot complain then, because you're not giving back to have that type of program. When I see Al-Akbar doing programs, I see Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya doing programs, I see other organizations doing programs, why is it that our youth are doing programs away from the multi-million pound centers that we have, which are beautiful, which are in the best locations? Now, I say this with my heart burning, and I would hope that people look into it, because in reality, we should be a very strong community.
Okay. Coming back to you starting speaking, it started at Haraka. When did you start getting invitations to centers from different communities? I'm specifically talking about the Khoja maybe community, as well as the Pakistani community. And before that, when was your first majlis, the first memorable majlis that you
first majlis at 19 years of age was my first majlis. Listen, you're raw, you're not the polished guy you are years later, but if you speak from here, people feel it. I can't say that in my early years. What am I in my early years? I'm not that knowledgeable. I'm just about getting to grips with my studies. But, alhamdulillah, with Haraka, we had that opportunity. There was a point at Haraka where I wanted others to speak, but it just became a case that everyone's coming to listen to you. In a way, it was good because it kept me on my toes. But then slowly we started encouraging others. I think, one of my good friends, Zahid Kimji from the Khawaja community, you know Zahid well, and Zahid grew up with me, and he said to me, listen, the Khawaja community have got lectures in English. If your community doesn't have majalis in English at their center, why don't you try and come to speak at the Khawaja center known as Hujjat Stanmore, which was a local for us. And I remember it was the Shahada of Imam al-Kadhim and Shahada of Abu Talib. There are many...
Rajab.
Yeah, Rajab. There are many who won't attend Shahada Imam al-Kadhim and Abu Talib. Muharram, Shahr Ramadan. Iraqis, I suppose, have a soft spot for Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. But I was like, 20, 21 years of age? And the English listening or learning center in Stanmore upstairs. So it wasn't the main hall yet. I never got access to the main hall at the beginning. It was in that English learning center. And alhamdulillah, they went really well. From there, I'll tell you someone else, and I'm sure many of the viewers will like listening to his name. I think he was instrumental in a movement of English majalis, and that was Haj Hassanin Rajab Ali. Hassanin Rajab Ali had a great impact on a lot of people when he came to London in the early 2000s. One day at Queen Mary's University, there may be some here. I don't know who was here. Let me see. We have like blue hearts if you were at Queen Mary's? Blue. If you were at Queen Mary's...
I'm not sure if they can choose the color.
Oh, they can't choose the color, just random.
Random hearts coming up. So if they're at Queen Mary, give us hearts.
If you were at Queen Mary's when me and Hassanin Rajab Ali spoke in the early 2000s, wow, that many of you, mashallah. He turned around to me that day and he said to me, listen, you're going to have to travel and do a lot of lecturing. I said to him, no. I'm just doing youth lectures, London, and I'm going to be a hotshot lawyer, and I'm going to be driving a Ferrari and having a penthouse, and, that's it. I just want to give a bit back of my love for Elevate, nothing more. He goes, no. There's a lot of demand and there's little supply. And he goes, I can't go to all these places, so get ready that you're going to have to go as well. And it really just begun from there, Dubai 2003, Cape Town 2004, New York 2004, Orlando 2005, Dearborn, Michigan 2006. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just blessed me too much. He's been too kind to me, and so many doors have been opened for me, which probably I don't deserve, you know.
May Allah increase your tawfiq, Sayyid. Someone at that age, you're talking 21, 22, 23, up to 25, 26, getting invited around the world. You know better than anyone else. At that age, it's difficult to fight what we have, this desire of now everyone knows me, everyone's inviting me.
Yeah.
Big shot. How do you fight that? And it's difficult, you know, which I'm talking, why it's difficult, because you've got 40, 50-year-old speakers that are struggling with this. So now you're talking about a 23, 24-year-old, yani. How do you fight that? How do you remind yourself, I'm doing this for the right reasons?
Look, bro, you know what? You're 23, 24, you're still maturing, and you have to admit that you make mistakes. You know, there are moments where you admit you made mistakes. There are things that should have been approached differently. But alhamdulillah, you know, I think anyone who's known me always has known that I've been pretty much the same guy off the minbar since I became, or I became what I am. Do you know what I mean? So I think everyone who will see you will say, you know, he's pretty much the same guy. You can still chill with him. You can still have a good laugh with him. I think that was important, you know, still being one of the guys who anyone could just pick up the phone to and come and chill with. Sometimes you have to be careful that you don't reach that stage of holier than thou. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who can do holier than thou well. There are some people who believe that the religious figure should look a lot more like Santa Claus than look like Ammar Nakshawani. Because they do believe that there is a certain halo that should be around the religious figure, maybe a longer beard than me, maybe looking a bit different than me. I just feel that I just wanted to remain the same guy. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't want it to get to my head that I have to look a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that stood me in good stead. Like, it was important for me to be able to, like, if my friends were going to watch Liverpool play, they'd know that I'd be with them. It keeps you down to earth. I did have one Maulana who once said to me, either football or religion. And I was like, no, I'll leave religion for the knowledgeable and I'll go towards football. And I think therefore those things kept me grounded more than anything. As you mature, you realize that you're nothing more than another of the lovers of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, who just has a certain duty for a number of years. You move on, his name remains number one. The quicker you get that in your head, believe you me, the more grounded you will be. As much as people may follow you and love you and praise you, and listen, I always say to people, if it wasn't for your du'as, my parents' du'as, but your du'as, my family's support, then I would be nothing. But at the end of the day, you realize I'm only a servant of the main man. The main man is what it's all about. We can give lectures from now till our grave. It's all about him. People have come to listen to you because of him. If you never had your words on Karbala or on the wisdom of the Amir, people wouldn't listen to you. Why would they listen to you? It's only because you're taking their words that people admire you. So always remember that.
The most beautiful title in the Iraqi community, I mentioned this because you mentioned the word servant, is Khadim al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. I think that's the highest honor anyone can gain, is being called the servant. Which a Khadim is someone that's, you know, looked down upon. It's like not the best. If you call someone to Khadim, it's not the best titles, but when it comes to being Khadim Imam al-Hussein salamullahi, Khadim al-Itra, the servant of the Ahlul Bayt, I think that's the most important thing. But with that comes a specific or duty that you have, because now you're on the minbar, there's a responsibility. How did you manage to make sure you're not just speaking, you're still gaining the knowledge? Because you're getting the
you know what?
You
know what?
Does the reading stop? Yeah, someone might think, sorry to interrupt. Someone might think, Anya, because this is what some people might think, that you read a few books and then you become a speaker, khalas, that's it. You become now on the pulpit, or you give lectures for 20, 30. It's not just a few books that you have to do or read, or a few Hausa classes. How did you keep gaining the knowledge?
You know what? You got to have a profound love for what you're doing. And you'll be found out very soon if you don't have a love for what you're doing. Or if you're doing it for some frustrated, and you'll give up on it. There have been people who have been growing up with me giving lectures. They're nowhere now. You don't see them anymore. And I don't blame them. Maybe the pressures were too much. Maybe the intention they had when they first started lecturing was not the intention that was required. You really have to look forward to reading these texts. You got to look forward to really wanting to serve, to wanting to smiling when you hear that others have changed. I just find that Islam's an ocean. Believe you me, as Sheikh Al-Tusi, when he was once asked, he was sitting on the minbar quite high, and they're like to him, who do you think you are sitting so high on the minbar? And he said, no, that's for the knowledge that I have. If they made a minbar for the knowledge that I don't have, it'll be too high. This is just for the knowledge that I have. And so even with myself, there's so many more topics that I sometimes think to myself, you know what? This needs a series. That needs a series. This needs... And I still have even some mashayikh and sada say to me, so where'd you get these new topics from, man? Which we're struggling to find. And here you've come out with another series. But I'm just like, there's so much more that we can give back. Islam's such a great ocean. So you got to have that passion to continue learning and admitting that you still have a lot to learn.
Talking of topics, before I ask you about how you come up with the topics for your lectures, I want to ask a question. You know, because now people that are listening to you, who does Sayyid Ammar listen to? Do you listen to any lectures? Do you follow any lectures in Arabic? And obviously, I know Urdu and Gujarati you don't speak. So Arabic or English? Do you actually listen to lectures? Do you know? Back in the day and today.
Yeah, well, you know what? Back in the day, there have been the likes of, you know, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Wa'ili has some phenomenal content, really great stuff to benefit from. But I think there's so many different types of speakers you can benefit from. You know, I think there's speakers who maybe even we may differ on our worldviews, but they have some brilliant topics. Do you know what I mean? But I would say that, you know what, there's been some great lecturers out there. They all have their own respective styles. There's some great ulama you benefit from. You know, I think you look online, and there's some of the ulama who've gone very social media, and they have some great material. And you know, I'm honored by some of the scholars I studied under. You know, I was honored to have studied under, you know, our great friend and our teacher, Ayatollah Fadl Milani, as an example, you know, and Sheikh Bahmanpour, as an example. You know, these are great teachers a person can benefit from. Who cannot benefit from the likes of Sheikh Muhammad Ali Shomali, for example? You know, a lot of these teachers are great. A lot of my academic teachers or supervisors were also beneficial, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. You know, I benefited from the supervision of Professor Sajjad Rizvi, benefited from Professor Robert Gleave, Professor Clifford Edmund Bosworth, benefited from Professor Hussein, you know, Sayyid Hussein Mudarrisi at Princeton University, Professor Mahmoud Ayoub. So in the academic world and the Hawsawi world, I benefited from so many. But I will say this, I can benefit from anyone if my attitude is right. Learning, 70% is attitude, 30% is intellect. Too many of us are concerned with how does the speaker look like? How clean is his turban? How does his saya look like? How does his glasses look like? How does he... No. Just listen to what they're saying. Don't look at who's speaking. Look at what they're saying, because you're going to miss out on a lot if that's your attitude. You're going to miss out on a lot of material. And so I think that if you take me, you know very well that when I'm not lecturing, my favorite thing is to go and listen to someone's lecture. And I've been known to attend a majlis randomly to listen to somebody. Now, people might turn around and say, you know, what are you doing here? Why should I not be here? I don't have a monopoly on ilm. I can benefit from this speaker, whoever he is. So we shouldn't only focus on this idea that if he is at a certain caliber or a certain big name, then I listen to him. You can go to a local Hussainiya on a wet, windy Wednesday night, and you can still benefit enormously from a local sheikh or a local sayyid.
Sayyid, the topics this year for Shahr Ramadan have been interesting. Death. How did that come about? And is it to do with, some people thought, someone asked me, is it to do with the coronavirus because it's happening? I said, I doubt it, because Sayyid usually prepares quite a few months before that.
My Shahr Ramadan series of majalis are normally, I begin preparing them about 16 to 18 months before the lectures. And sometimes 12 to 18, sometimes 16 to 18 months. Subhanallah, I had prepared the series on death thinking that I would present them and there's no COVID-19 and no corona. And now look what happens. Corona, COVID-19, and suddenly these majalis fall into place. My aim was to try and firstly provide a, A to Z type guide to the journey of the afterlife. I still believe a lot of us up to this date were a bit wishy-washy on, okay, this happens, but then what happens next? But when does this happen? How long is this? I believe that, Qiyamah and Ma'ad is an area many of us want to hear about, but it's never been structured flowingly. Secondly, I believe that Maut and Ma'ad is always scary. And I would hope that I've given a lot of the listeners a refreshing look or outlook on death, where it's just like, well, Munkar and Nakir, but they love Ahlul Bayt, and if we love Ahlul Bayt, why should we be worried about seeing Munkar and Nakir? It all seems to add up logically that inshallah they're going to be like, welcome, O lover of Ahlul Bayt, and the Shafa'ah of Ahlul Bayt on the Day of Judgment. All of that adds up to a quite rosy picture on death. Whereas normally it was like, brimstone and fire, and we're going to burn all of you, and snakes and methods of subjugation. So I hope that, this series has benefited all you guys out there,
inshallah,
to have a nice outlook on death. Yeah.
Sayyid, there's something that I feel, a trend that you started with the way you lecture, the way it's structured. The way your intro is always the same. People know it. Then you give the verse or the hadith that you're going to dissect, and you dissect the topic, and it's ahsant, and it's very structured. I've seen a lot of people try now that method as well. It's a good speaker, I feel, or the one that, I shouldn't say a good speaker. A speaker that I like listening to is someone that picks one topic and goes in depth to it, rather than jumping from A to Z and so on. Each person has different taste. How do you prepare for these majalis? You're saying now 18 months. We're talking a year and a half ago. So how do you actually prepare for a majlis? What's the tools that you use? So I want to know. I want to speak about death. What do I do? What's the plan for me if I want to speak to next month in Muharram next year about death? What do I need to do to structure? Obviously, it will be difficult to copy your style, Sayyidina, but what do I need to do?
Well, firstly, all tawfiq comes from God, and I have to keep reminding myself of this. Believe you me, my dear beloved listeners and viewers, there are moments where I get stuck in my preparation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires you with a thought or a page in a book, and it really does help. The essay style for me was really influenced by my academic studies. Because when you're writing a PhD, you've got your intro, you've got your 6 chapters or whatever. And my supervisor said to me, well, why don't you do that on Mambar? And ironically, he was English. He wasn't, it was English Christian, was not from our community. But he said that, begin with an intro, lay out 4 or 5 points, and then a conclusion. And then everyone's able to follow you. It is hard, Habibi Haj Mustafa, it's hard for a person to stay on the same topic for 50 minutes because, your knowledge has to be quite strong to say that I'm ready to tell you guys about this for 50 minutes. Most people can last 20 and then they start going. Look, one of the speakers I mentioned earlier, he can start at akhlaq, goes to God, comes back to marriage, goes to football, comes back to akhlaq, marriage, parents, kids. By the end, it's such a nice lecture. What was the topic? And he used to say to me that, well, that's my style. I just want to make lots of nice
Some
points.
people like that, yeah. Sahih.
And I can't. I will lose my head. I've even had nightmares about not having the correct structure for my majlis. I know. That's how probably sad my life is. But anyone who gives lectures will tell you, that you're so engrossed. Listen, 23 nights, 27 nights in a row of majalis. Your head is so engrossed because you're on TV literally every night. And it's just crazy. And so you have to prepare well. And look, for example, here. So what I'll do is one day I'll be sitting down, and my mum has told me off a couple of times jestingly in the past, where I'll be sitting at the breakfast table. You know what? Give me a topic. You give me a topic, Mustafa.
Now I'll give you a topic.
Yeah, any topic. Just say.
Visit Ziarah.
Ziarah, intro, Ziarah. Okay, which verse shall I put for Ziarah? Let me try to choose a controversial one. Surah 9 verse 84. ولا تصلي على أحد منهم مات أبدا ولا تقم على قبره. ولا تصلي على أحد منهم مات أبدا ولا تقم على قبره. We have to stand by the grave of someone. The Quran says ولا تقم على قبره.
No, قبره.
Where does this come from? Point number 2. وأن المساجد لله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. So how could I be doing dua in a masjid? Point number 3. What's the replies to these? Point
the
number
hearts
4.
Are going like this now. The hearts are.
So what's going on? Now the problem is that this is like a gas bill. So now everyone's like, hold on, what the hell is this? So in my earlier lecturing career, before iPad, iPod, everything, I would be writing the notes for my majalis. And know one thing, you never ever write the whole lecture. Because if you're memorizing your majalis, it means you don't know what you're talking about. Biggest mistake is to write the whole lecture.
Interesting.
All you need to do is the outline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you've got knowledge, elaborate on that knowledge.
Good advice.
Yeah, never write your whole lecture, because then you're memorizing, and memorizing
so,
you don't have knowledge.
So what about controversial topics? Some people have said, "Oh, that's."
Have I had any controversial topics?
King of controversy, king of controversial topics. So much so that some of them were taken down.
I know.
Now I want to speak about a topic. This is a very important point that I want to ask you. I want to speak about a topic. Do you look at what the community needs, or what's missing, what they should know? How do you pick a topic? Do you pick it because, I'm sure I have to ask you this, but I'm sure I know the answer. You don't. Do you pick a topic because it's controversial?
No. On the contrary, I only think I only think people make it to seem controversial because they haven't heard many others be willing to talk about it. So when Ammar Nakshawani talks about it, it's going to be like, okay, let's see how it's done. Why did he do that? Remember one thing in life, people love lecturers, not mainly on their content, but sometimes on how they rub off on them, how they said salam to them that day. If it was about content, I think it'll be clear whose content's what. But I think when I'm looking at controversial subjects, like, look, when I done, for example, sexual ethics, and I don't think it's controversial. It's just that nobody is going to expect that at your local Hussainiya. We done it on Imam Hussein TV. People were like, how could you say that word? There's a reason we done it on TV and we didn't do it in a Hussainiya where a 6-year-old may be in front of us. Now, I can't deny that there may have been certain subjects or certain topics that I tackled. I can't deny that they may have been, I can't deny that my language could have been a bit softer. I can't deny, look, I've had I can honestly say in 20 years of giving majalis, there's only 2 lectures where I think that the language I used was too harsh. For some reason, those 2 lectures, according to some, meant that I had completely changed direction, which is absolute load of nonsense. It's just that those things were they're quite sensitive issues. And I think the language one has to put their hand up and say, on another occasion, it doesn't need to go that harsh. But then when you've got 1,000 to 1,800 majalis, you're bound to have a couple which you think I could have done a bit different. Someone who's got 11 majalis, no one's really gonna be too concerned.
You asked me, tell me a topic. I said Ziarah. I said Ziarah because I wanted to, we've got a few minutes, just around 10 minutes left. I want to ask you about Ziarah. Those of you that know me know that my first Ziarah was in 2010 to Iraq, to the shrines in Iraq. And that Ziarah was with Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani. So my first Ziarah to the holy city after the fall of 2003 was with Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani. I still remember us getting off the bus. If you remember, it was raining when we were in Najaf. And I still remember we went in sujood because obviously, number one, it's the land of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Number two, it's home. We're both from Najaf. Yeah. And then in the rain, while everyone went into the hotel, I remember in the rain, you told me, let's go do your first ziyarah. And we done our first ziyarah. Alhamdulillah, that was my first ziyarah. And since then, I've been going 2-3 times a year. I'm blessed to have done the first ziyarah of Najaf, Karbala, Samarra, Kadhimain with yourself, Sayyid. Tell me about, because, if anyone's been to ziyarah, especially the early ones, I don't know about the last ones, but the early ones, when Sayyid Ammar was from A to Z. Now I think Sayyid Ammar is A and then D and then comes at G. I don't know how it works because they're bigger groups maybe. There's more speakers as well coming with you. But I remember the year I went, yourself, and if I'm not mistaken, Sheikh Ayub, may Allah bless him. They're the only two speakers with us, and you would do most of the lectures as well as also the outside ziyarahs. It was, especially now, I think when you go Arba'in, it's difficult to do the outside ziyarahs. But I had the honor of doing the outside ziyarahs. You brought history back within my palms. So ziyarah for Sayyid Ammar, each ziyarah of course is different. I don't want to ask you, which one's your best. But how do you look forward to each ziyarah? How do you prepare yourself for ziyarah?
Well, I must say that, the ziyarahs yourself had together was amongst the best memories that we had. I still remember the moment we entered the shrine of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam together. And Al-Hajj Murtada Kanani and, the spiritual journeys team. I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Liaq al-Dawji for being a president of the Haidari Islamic Center, who had pushed for communities to take youth on ziyarah. And then, when we had that team, when we were all together at spiritual journeys, it's just been an amazing journey, and the amount of people whose lives have changed, and the amount of young couples whose children's development religiously has been affected by ziyarah is phenomenal. You can take your children to preschool, this school, that school, but taking them on ziyarah and having the company of other ladies, other gents who you can empathize with, they can empathize with you, what they've been through from their respective communities, and seeing people from others. I'm sure you'll appreciate that maybe your mind opened up more when you met other Shia from other communities rather than your own. And I do sincerely believe that that's what we need in our communities. We need a lot more who realize that this is a cosmopolitan generation. All of us, English unites us, the language. We can all get on with each other, learn from each other. And that's why the ziyarahs have just gone from strength to strength. Spiritual journeys, I'm not making an ad for spiritual journeys, because I think anyone who goes to Karbala, all roads lead to Abu Abdullah. Whoever you go with, you know what, it's amazing. You're all probably going to end up at my majlis in Arba'in anyway, but all roads lead to Abu.
So someone might ask, you know, since 2009, I believe, when you started with spiritual journeys, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, or 2010. Is it different every time you go?
It
How
is,
do
my
you?
bro. It is. It is. But
Because
I
you know,
tell you what,
someone that goes
absence.
every
Yeah.
year, like, yeah, sure. Some people go once in a lifetime, and they'll talk about it. Is it emotional every time you go? Can you feel the same spiritual? Are you on the same spiritual level every time you go? How does
Well, you
someone
can
prepare
ask.
themselves?
You can ask one of our good friends who's held me a couple of times when I've been a bit emotional, and that's, Haidar al-Jaizani. You ask him about how emotional we get when we're over there. You ask Haj Murtada Kanani, you ask Haj Abdul Rauf. All these guys who are on the spiritual journeys team, my brother, others, Mullah Hassan al-Mudaffar, Haji Haidar al-Qazzaz. A lot of these guys who work their socks off on the spiritual journeys team will tell you that every single time we go, it's always a different feeling, a different emotion. The mashayikh who come with us, Sheikh Noor, Sheikh Muhammad al-Hilli, Sheikh Ayyub, all of them have done great when they've come with us. I can never achieve anything without them. Is it different all the time? I cannot say that every single time there's a clear difference, but I can say that I learn something new all the time. Sometimes you go there, you don't know, maybe Allah's using you as a wasila to inspire someone on that trip. Maybe they're being used as a wasila to maybe inspire me on something in the trip. There's so much barakah around the shrines of Al Muhammad. You can tick off all the boxes of all the holiday resorts you've been to. If you've not done Karbala and Najaf, you've not lived. If you've not done Kadhmain and Samara, you've not lived. You may have lived physical lives, but spiritually, you need to get there quite quick. And I really pray for everyone that they do get there quick. And they're more than welcome to join us. We'd be honored for all of you to come along with us. I'm sure the hearts that are all coming through are people who've been with us. And I'm sure, inshallah, there's going to be many more who join us. Yeah.
I'm remembering my Ziarah, somewhere that Sayyid Ammar breaks. Obviously Najaf, Karbala, but somewhere where the 4 times that I have been with SJ is Kufa. And especially when we're next to the grave of Al-Mukhtar Al-Thaqafi. That's if anyone's been with SJ and they've been with Sayyid Ammar near Mukhtar's grave, Sayyid Ammar gives a specific talk about what Mukhtar's role was after Karbala, and that's the 4 times that I've been there. Sayyid Ammar, why there? Sometimes I ask till today, why does Sayyid Ammar, when we're near Mukhtar, someone has to catch Sayyid Ammar.
Yeah, I know. It does get quite emotional. Mukhtar al-Thaqafi manages to meet those people, the perpetrators of the crimes of the 10th of Muharram. And I think the meetings with Harmala bin Kahil in particular break our heart, because when here he is asking Harmala about what happened on the 10th, and it's just recounted, it really breaks us down. It really does. As if Karbala wasn't enough, but then to see the audacious nature of these individuals, the way they bragged in some cases about what they did to Imam al-Hussein. Mukhtar is there in Majr al-Kufa, Muslim is there, Hani is there, and of course the place where the Imam was struck. It all adds up. Haji Mustafa, it all adds up.
There's a beautiful story. I'll mention this since we mentioned, Ziarah and servants. There's a time when I believe Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khou'i goes or I'm not sure who visits who, but there's a reciter by the name of Abdul Radha al-Radud. It's quite a famous story that Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khou'i asks him he's sick, so he asks this reciter, who's this Latmiya reciter, to make dua for him. So the reciter tells the marja of his time that you're the marja. Your dua is accepted. Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khou'i, and I checked this with one of the close relatives of the Sayyid, if the story. He said, yes, this is true. So the Sayyid, the marja, tells him that you are a servant of Imam al-Hussein, so your dua is accepted. So saying this story, I want to ask you, when you stand next to the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, salamullahi alayhi, and we know that the dua of one of the merits of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein is that your dua is accepted under his dome. Every time you go there, I'm sure there's things that you say that you would share with us. But what's the dua that you say when you're next to? What do you say to Abu Abdullah? Someone goes to Ziarah, and I'm only asking you this not just to hear your answer, but inshallah to give advice to those that are going Ziarah, inshallah, after this lockdown's over. They're planning to go for Arba'een, maybe to go for Christmas, because sometimes you go there, like you said, when you mentioned you going next to Baqi', and you're standing there and you're like, why is everyone around me crying and I'm not? So that's why I'm asking you this.
There are times I don't go near the grave. I don't enjoy pushing people to get near his grave. From outside, I'll stand there on the corner, maybe near a baklava shop or something. And those are the moments where you just look towards him. He knows what's in your heart. There are people who think that we have to touch the dharih, and then we say what we want to say. If you can get there, it's amazing. فَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْخُدُودَ الَّتِي تَقَلَّبَتْ عَلَى قَبْرِ أَبِي عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. I think the lights are switched off. Is the light switched off?
So yeah.
Oh, there
are
you
you
go.
in Iraq or are you in London?
No, I'm in London.
Yeah.
So if you can get to the shrine, get to the shrine. I personally, when I know it's busy, this is mainly Arba'een. April and December, when we go is quiet. You can sit there for hours in December. Literally, you're sitting there and there's only 10, 15 people in December when we take spiritual journeys there. You've seen how it is in Christmas. Karbala is virtually empty. But when it's busy, from outside, Assalamu alaikum Abu Abdullah, look towards the dome. He knows what's in my heart. And if I'm going to open up, there are many things you pray for. Your parents, first and foremost, no doubt. Because if it wasn't for them, you're nothing. But I think one of the main prayers is, Ya Allah, allow me to continue in my service of this man. Give me the strength to continue to serve him. Any second I can be incubator, ventilator. We've seen people go. We've lost good people. You just can't take it all for granted. So while you have that health, before you become sick, give back as much as you can to the path of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. Salawatullah wa salam alayhi. And it doesn't have to just be in majalis. If you can serve your community, help the orphans, help the needy, help people who are homeless, help people who are destitute, help people who have no one to care for them in terms of charity. This is all service, probably bigger than my service back to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So we all have our different roles. That's the main thing. There's a Habib, there's a Muslim, there's a John, there's a Hur. Each of us different roles.
Ahsant, Sayyidina. We're coming up to the last 1 minute. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for making time for Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya, for coming on. We're delighted and honored that the first live feed Sayyid Ammar does on Instagram is with Al-Haraka Al-Hussainiya. Any last words in the last minute, advice for youth?
Well, I love all you guys. If it wasn't for all your kind words and your prayers, I wouldn't be anything really. And I'm indebted to many of you. I do apologize that I'm not as public as many of you would want me to be, and I cannot meet so many of you. But I see the thousands of messages that you all send, and messages where I can tell that from the heart these messages have come. And I thank you all so much. I thank the Haraka Al-Hussainiya team. I know, Haji Mustafa, Haji Haidar, Mullah Ali, all you guys. I'm really proud of where you've got to. Keep it up. Keep doing the great work. Our community needs you. And you never know. Watch the space. There could be a day that we could be doing a Muharram together. Who knows?
I was just about to say, inshallah, the first Instagram, and inshallah we'll have a majlis after this lockdown's over.
Inshallah, we'll rent out Wembley.
Ya Allah, Sayyidina, I'd just like to thank you for making time. For those of you watching, we're going to come back after we're going off for the quiz. Thank you, Sayyidina. Jazakallah khair.
God bless all of you. Thank you all so much. Thank you.